Malik Nabers is on track for a monstrous season. Russell Wilson actually looks like a starting quarterback for the Giants, and it seems like Jaxson Dart struggles on his first day. Welcome to New York Giants Training Camp, baby. Let's go. What's going on, guys? What is going on, 27 Squad? Welcome back into another video. Feels good to be back. Took a long break, but we're here for the 2025 New York Giants, and today they have started their training camp. This was day one of training camp, and we'll get into everything that I've seen and everything that's been talked about all over social media when it comes to the first day. Before we start, as always, make sure you guys hit that like button if you guys are enjoying the content. Subscribe for more New York Giants news and content, and also be sure to check out in the description below. During the season, I'll be doing an ESPN Pick'em League, and the winner will get a prize along with the second place and third place winner. They will get a prize. I like doing these instead of fantasy leagues because everybody can join in this and everybody can compete instead of having a fantasy league with only a certain few selected. So make sure you guys, if you guys want to go in during the season, we'll be doing an ESPN Pick'em League. If you guys don't know what it is, you pretty much just pick which teams are going to win week to week, and whoever has the most points at the end of the year gets a prize, first, second, and third. So make sure you guys hit that link, as well as the membership. I'm revamping my membership program, guys. I'll be doing a lot of film-centric stuff on the membership here on YouTube, so make sure you guys hit that join membership for even more content that I won't be able to monetize if I put it public, because the NFL is like cracking down on film reviews. So I figured I'll put it in the membership and have it for people who want to support the channel. And that'll be starting in the preseason. We'll be breaking down the best players to the worst players to players that nobody ever heard of. So let's get into it. Surprisingly enough, the Giants are only going into training camp with only 2 players on the PUP list, and that is one being Andrew Thomas, which is pretty significant, and Eric Gray. But listening into Joe Schoen in the press conference to open training camp, he did say he fully expects with confidence that Andrew Thomas will be ready for the opener. I don't really care about seeing Andrew Thomas in training camp or the preseason. We should not care about that. We just want to make sure he's healthy for week 1. That's all I'm concerned about. And when it comes to Eric Gray, he's a roster bubble guy at this point. It's not even clear if he's going to make the roster. The Giants have drafted yet another running back in Cam Scatterbo, so that's kind of waning off of Eric Gray. Practices, another thing that really caught my eye, it caught my attention during the training camp press conference with Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, is that it seems like they are going to be aggressive. They are not completely satisfied with what the roster looks like as of right now, and he did say that, you know, that they're going to be looking heavily into, you know, the second draft, he calls it, or I like to call it the second wave of free agency, when it's that Labor Day weekend and there's a bunch of roster cuts. You're going to see a lot of good players be cap casualties, or guys that just get beat out in a position that are useful players that you can bring onto your team. It seems like they're going to be paying heavy attention to that, because he said it's a big preseason for us, and he really noted, you know, getting these players in that are cut in that second wave of free agency. So expect them to fill in a lot of the voids like we did last year. We waited so long to get a guy like Adoree Jackson. They already brought in a guy like Kevon Wallace, the former Eagles draft pick at safety out of Clemson, and so expect them to keep adding to the roster and keep shaving off bits that shouldn't be there. They are not completely satisfied with the roster, and that's what we want. We want a front office that's never satisfied with what they have and constantly wanting to upgrade it. With good reason, of course. So let's get into training camp and what the things that we've noticed going into training camp. I think the biggest thing as far as a roster standpoint goes that everybody that has stood out to everybody was Cordell Flott starting at the cornerback 2 spot over Deonte Banks. That's right. It's not Banks are closed on Sundays. It's a hot Flott summer. So Cordell Flott is I mean, he was constantly talked about as being a potential starter ever since this guy was drafted. There was a point, I believe, last year where it was like Cordell Flott's spot to lose, until they eventually signed Adoree Jackson later on into camp to start the season. But, the Giants have been trying to force their way to have Flott be their starter for a while now, and they're trying to compete. Trying to have him compete with Deonte Banks, who was coming off a very, very poor sophomore season at, trying to be that cornerback 1, now a cornerback 2, and they're going to be rotating on and off. Now, I don't really know how well Flott did. There wasn't any talk about him having any pass defense or near interceptions, but there was a pass deflection by Deonte Banks on Malik Nabers, a bit of an underthrown ball by Russell Wilson, but it was still a pass deflection or pass defense by Deonte Banks on Malik Nabers, so a win is a win at that point. Speaking of Malik Nabers, he had a phenomenal day. I mean, this guy is going to be special. Do you guys remember when I said when Odell Beckham got traded that we're never ever gonna get a guy at wide receiver like Odell Beckham? Never. And damn, what is that, like 9 years later, we get a guy. Oh, no, that's not 8 years later. What have I been talking about? Like 7 years later, we get a guy like Malik Nabers, also coming out of LSU, just being an absolute dog out there at the wide receiver position. So I'm eating my words now. We have a lot of talk about the quarterbacks. There wasn't a lot to talk about for the defensive side of the football. Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau are seem to be really aggressive out there, so they're getting a lot of work in and they're looking pretty good out there. I believe it was Roy Robertson Harris is slated as that defensive tackle too, so it looks like Raheem Nunez Roches or Nacho is kind of taking the back seat a little bit. Still yet to see what anything on Darius Alexander making a splash at starting defensive tackle. That's going to be a competition to watch during the preseason, as the Giants have loaded up that defensive tackle room to try to create as much competition as possible for that DT2 spot. And of course, they're going to have some rotation there as well. They have a lot of guys with different types of specialties out there. You got your smaller guys like Elijah Chapman. You have your bigger guys like DJ Davison and Jordan Riley. You have your pass rushing type defensive tackles like Darius Alexander. A lot of competition there for that defensive tackle spot. But let's move on to what everybody's been talking about, and that is the quarterback. That's really the ones to take note of in this first day of training camp. There are no pads, and they were doing a lot of red zone drills. So the only thing to really get out of it is either good defensive back play or, the quarterback play. So let's talk about Russell Wilson first. He was 8 of 14 for, I believe, 4 touchdowns. 3 to Malik Nabers and 1 to Chris Manhertz. Man, Russell Wilson out there just looks like a starting quarterback. 8 of 14, 4 touchdowns, 3 to Malik Nabers. It's clear that he's going to have a favorite target, and that's the guy he should be targeting. I just want them to establish a chemistry early, so eventually when the season does roll around, that he already has that chemistry with Malik Nabers and they're able to get the ball moving extremely quickly, and there's not going to be any room for confusion or miscommunications or anything like that, where they can just be a dynamic offense, hopefully. But I really like what I'm seeing for Russell Wilson. The ball is coming out smooth, it's coming out on time, it's coming out accurately. Not a lot of mistakes there, and not a lot of stupid errors where you just completely sails on the guy, and that's something they have to worry about. You don't have to worry about that when it comes to Russell Wilson, as accurate and as much of a veteran he is. Now, on the other hand, we have to talk about Jaxson Dart. Now, Jaxson Dart, did he struggle? Absolutely. Is he the wrong draft pick for the New York Giants? We don't have enough to say that yet. As much as I was not a fan of Jaxson Dart in the draft, I have to be fair in my biases to not just go off the rails on it because I got news that I guess presented as evidence to my claim of Jaxson Dart not being a great quarterback. This is not enough yet. The first day is red zone drills. That is the hardest drills to really do. Ironically enough, it's the hardest to do. People would think that it's the easiest because you have a shorter field to work with. That's completely wrong. Okay, when you come to the red zone, you have the shorter field to work with. You have less space to throw the ball. The defense has a lot less room to move around in. They have a lot less ground to cover. It is a lot harder. Now, Jaxson Dart didn't perform well. I believe he had 1 touchdown, and that was to Theo Johnson. And he also had 1 pick six, 1 interception. It was a pick six to Nick Jones, one of the cornerbacks, trying to make the roster, and he went out there and made a good impression on the coaching staff, I would assume, by that pick six on 11-on-11 drills. And for the rest of the 11-on-11 drills, Jaxson Dart was 1 for 5. So only 1 for 5 that entire day. He's gonna be kicking himself, trying to get better and obviously trying to learn from his mistakes, hopefully. And we'll see in the next day what he puts out there. The rest of the quarterback performances, Jameis Winston was 4 of 5 with a touchdown to Lil Jordan Humphrey, and Tommy DeVito was 2 of 3. So pretty pedestrian there. Jameis Winston did a good job with his efficiency and only had 1 incomplete pass, and it was not an interception. So there you go. So I know Jaxson Dart performed probably the worst out of all of these quarterbacks. Even though he did throw a touchdown, his only throw was a touchdown. And he did somewhat well in the 7-on-7 drills too. I believe I saw him throw a touchdown to Cam Scatterboo. We saw Russell Wilson throw a touchdown to Wan'Dale Robinson on 7-7 drills. So there were a lot of things to know on 7-on-7 as well. And Jaxson Dart took a little bit of a part in that. But let's slow down when it comes to Jaxson Dart, guys. All right, let's slow down on the hate. First and foremost, he's a rookie. He is just coming out of a gimmicky offense that is very read and react. He's being implemented now into a much more difficult offense, and also he's performing in the red zone, so we have to give him some grace with that, guys. Let's give him some grace, and let's see what happens in the later days and practices and training camp, and then we can make a little bit more of a not decision, or a little bit more of a take on, if he's good or if he's not starting out the season. Because some rookies just click, right? Some rookies just click. It's not going to be like that for all of them. So that being said, that is training camp day 1 for the New York Giants. Be sure to leave a like if you guys enjoyed the content. Next year, guys, I'm going to make it a mission to go up there myself and give you guys the, one-on-one news on what happened in training camp. But this time I'm just gonna have to look at the news articles and a bunch of tweets, and a bunch of videos as well. So that being said, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Woo!